I had submitted an exhibit number 12, to the judge when the defendants filed their motion to dismiss. This was filed because of all the fabrications, perjury, essentially lies, that were spouted in the motion to dismiss. So I thought, well, you know what? Dal-tile did a profile on me that I was required to go through, and they did this on September 28th, 2021. So I thought, hey, you know what? Why not supply this to the judge so he can see for himself what my character is all about in terms of work, the way that I approach work. So for those of you who have gone through a DISC certification, you'll know that it measures your dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. Well, when you look at my graph, I am pretty much off the chart in terms of influence. Now that's really good for a salesperson. And it's really critical for someone who's a business development specialist to ensure that that degree of influence is being applied to the conversation as it relates to ROI. And ROI, as you know, is return on the investment. And I always talked to my clients regarding return on investment as the most critical factor when considering buying from me. When we had a conference call to discuss this in a group, the moderators remarked that they hadn't really seen someone with a really high influence, like into almost the 90 percentile, who was also extremely conscientious. Because typically someone who is highly influential on the sales side, they might look at that person as being low on the conscientious side. In other words, you know, sort of like a hustler, con artist. And that's going to be way low in terms of the conscientiousness. So what I was bringing to the table was this balance that in communicating and in the idea, the concept of being persuasive with my audience, I always was thinking about what is best for them versus what's best for me. I wanted this to be a collaborative effort, a collaborative purchasing between them looking at me as a consultant and then having the product, enjoying it, and finding out that whomever that they were purchasing this for, whether it was for their employees or for the clients that were coming in, that in general, it was inspiring everybody. So it wasn't just about a monetary ROI. It was also about an emotional ROI, a psychological ROI. Like, how is this enhancing everybody's experience? Because, and I would say this all the time, if it's not bringing ROI to the table and that is what you're interested in from me, then maybe it's not the right time to buy. And it really was this desire to be thought of as someone who cared as much about who they cared about without me knowing them. And it was sincere and it was translatable over and over again. And that's why you'll see on the steady side, it is essentially climbing up to the conscientious side. So I am consistent. And then in terms of the dominance, whereas someone who's super high in influence, but the dominance is about challenges and being cautious and being understanding of what are the needs of the client that I'm in front of. And so when we got together as a group to discuss with a moderator what the DISC certification actually meant and went over it in finer detail, these were some of the startling results that came up. Now, this breaks things down further because the DISC survey can isolate where the person falls in terms of their level of dominance or their level of steadiness or conscientiousness. And as you'll see, in my dominance, it's about calculated risks, being unassuming, rational, and thoughtful. Okay, so my dominance, my aggressiveness is about aggressiveness in being thoughtful, putting solid attention to the person that I am actually working with. thoughtful, rational, meaning using logic and creativity, but also balancing that to understand, am I going in the right direction with what this person needs, or is it time to back off because they're not ready yet? Everything was about this wonderful sort of dynamic of this dance between what I knew I was supposed to do, which is sell, but what I'm really supposed to do, which is listen. And so on the side of the influence, which, by the way, no lawyer, no judge, no defendant like Mohawk or Dal-tile wants someone close to the 90 percentile to be placed in front of a jury. Do you think that they would actually want me to be talking to this jury the way that I talked to all of my customers for the last 30 plus years, and with a successful track record? The kind of successful track record that got me recruited over and over and over again everywhere I went, or asked to jump to another company all the time. I never had to look for a job. I was basically being pulled into other opportunities. And that's because people knew that the track record spoke for itself. This gets into intellectual property, and we're going to get into stuff like that later because all of that is built into the original Constitution. But this is what we all have as our intellectual property, our creativity, the way we come to our profession, the way that we design for ourselves, our trade, which is our own business. It is our shingle that we hang out. This is who we are. And so then you'll see over on the steadiness side, I'm planning. I am energetic, carefree, vigorous, variety-oriented. That's where the creativity came in. That's where the steadiness was about figuring out new ways to actually help the client understand that maybe some of the blocks that they had to wanting to move forward with a decision might have actually been based in fear. And so often people can stay doing the same exact thing over and over again, even when problems have arisen, because change is sometimes fearful for people, especially when those people can be held accountable for making bad decisions. So in that case, one of the things that would need to be would be, what is the implication of not looking at a future decision in a deeper way, because there could be unintended consequences the next time a bad decision is made. So in the general characteristics, it says, while you may sometimes tend towards surface analysis, you also display a very keen awareness of important details. This may come as a surprise to others, as they might assume that you only attend to the big picture items. You surprise them by contributing information about small details that may impact the project. This shows that in spite of your easygoing style, you also do your homework. You show a strong ability to meet others easily and demonstrate social poise in small or large group situations. This is an important strength, and one that the team and the organization should amplify for you. You can maximize this ability by choosing assignments and situations that will illuminate this strength. Furthermore, it goes on to say that the strengths were a positive sense of humor, bringing optimism to the team, demonstrating excellent people skills, flexible problem solver, demonstrating excellent verbal skills, and able to communicate to large and small audiences with equal poise and confidence. An excellent team player. So basically, all of these things, which I have prided myself on for the last 30 plus years in the same kind of capacity as I was doing with Dal-tile, turns out that the DISC certification supports all of that. And as I bring in other evidence, you'll see that that is the case as well. But certainly quite the contrast to what Whitney Welch had to say in that termination video, as you can listen to, which is dated February 16th, 2022. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this audio. It is with true sincerity that I want to impart the information that I have learned over the last 2.5 years, which really was not on the radar. I was never looking to be in a lawsuit. And this is certainly beyond the standard types of lawsuits that are considered as employee termination. This is beyond the scope of anything normal. And it's as if I'm standing in the perfect storm who has been witness to a company that has been able to get away with bad behavior for decades. And the only reason that they've gotten away with it is because they've never really been adjudicated of guilt. And the judge's role in a case is really supposed to be the arbiter of justice. And we're going to find out as we go through this whole exposition that that's one of the last things that they're actually there to do. They're there to really protect the corporation. And it's going to be shocking for you to see how the system was built to do that. And so what I'm sharing through this nightmare that I've lived through is that these externalities, these levels of bad behavior that start at the top and trickle all the way down, and use things like the DISC assessment to almost radicalize those who are predisposed to being absolutely aggressive and dominant and autocratic and manipulative, and carry out bad behavior and do things like highly unlawful terminations against a decent person who is only trying to do his job. But that's what happens when the courts are part of the legislators who are part of the corporations, because they're all working together. They're all basically one giant corporation, which you and I are not a part of. We're just the unlucky individuals who, when we catch these people doing what they do best, or rather do worst to us, and try to hold them accountable, the entire system has been created to help them get away with it. But we, together, collectively, can really make a difference. And so what I'm going to be taking you on is the journey of affidavits, constitutional affidavits, that is, and why those are so important in this case, and why Mohawk Industries and Dal-tile do not have a defense at this point. We'll also be talking about affidavits sent to the attorneys for Mohawk and Dal-tile who are defending this case, and to the judge himself. So buckle up. We've got a lot to cover, and it is my honor to be sharing all of this with you, because I want to inspire each and every one of you to grab a hold of your sovereignty, to recognize that every inalienable right that was granted to you back in 1787 in the original Constitution for the United States still exists today, even though we're so often persuaded that it doesn't exist. Well, it does. Follow me. Go on this journey with me. Learn from what I've done. And the more of us that learn this, we will be able to hold companies accountable, politicians accountable, judges accountable. We pay their salaries. Why wouldn't we be holding them accountable? Thank you so much for listening.